8 years old, I had my first explicit lesson on the hidden meaning of words. My brothers had a soccer team, which they named after our street, Ferrari Football Club. Calle Ferrari was on a very steep hill on Bellavista Hill in Valparaiso, in central Chile. And it was right there on that hill, on that street, that they used to practice. I loved to watch them, and I yearned to join them. And then finally one day they invited me. Carmencha, they said, go and stand down there at the bottom of the hill and catch the balls before they keep going all the way down to Plaza Victoria. Not very exciting, but I did it. And then one day they offered me the position of left winger. I played my heart out. I ran up and down the hill, dribbled the ball the way they had taught me, scored goals when I shot. I was so excited, so happy. I was an integral part of Ferrari Football Club. When the time for a real game came, I wasn't included. Tú eres mujercita. You're a little woman, Jorge said. Yeah, you're too small, Nelson added. Then I can play when I get older, right? I asked, knowing that I shouldn't have asked. My brothers looked at each other sideways. Then Jorge cleared his throat. I'm afraid not. Nelson finished me off. Women aren't allowed to play soccer, Carmencha. It's a very difficult and a very tough game, and only men can play it. Y tú eres mujer, and you are a woman. I felt a surge of fury grow in my gut and then go towards my hands and my feet. And my brothers paid for it because I kicked them and I punched them until I couldn't do it anymore. And I could hear their ouch and feel their hands trying to restrain me, but I couldn't stop. Finally, I found myself sitting on the curb, feeling completely defeated and exhausted. And all I wanted to do was cry, but I didn't. I didn't because I had understood perfectly well what they had meant when they had said, oh, tú eres mujercita, you're a woman. They had said, you're inept, you're inferior, you're incapable, you're not good, you're not strong enough, you're weak. So I didn't cry because I didn't want them to believe all those things, even though I knew that they did and the whole wide world did. It took me years to understand the origin and the history, the development of sexism and other social injustices. As for the role of language in reflecting and perpetuating those injustices, eventually I also came to understand that language is not just a sophisticated, neutral tool for reflection and communication, but actually it is a weapon loaded with power. Mujer, si te han crecido las ideas, de ti van a decir cosas muy feas, que no eres buena, que si tal cosa, que cuando callas te ves mucho más hermosa. Woman, if ideas have grown in you, they're gonna say very ugly things. They're gonna say that you're no good, this and that and the other. And they'll say that when you shut up, you look so much more beautiful. Well, I didn't shut up. And actually, I have dedicated my whole life to not shutting up, but rather to speaking up. Perhaps more importantly, though, I have dedicated my life to be an ally to those who have been oppressed and silenced by the powers that be. As a student at the University of Chile in Santiago, I joined the literacy campaign that the Student Federation was carrying out in the outskirts of the city, in the shanty towns. I had never seen such poverty in my whole life. Shacks made of tin and cardboard, no electricity, no sewage, no running water. Women, 30-year-old women with no teeth left in their mouths, men made of bones and skin, children with bellies like barrels and legs like pins. I realized then that the dominant classes had created their wealth and built their privilege on the backs of those who they considered to be inferior, but good enough to exploit and then discard as they wish. And I also understood that the war that they had been waging for centuries against those who they had marginalized would not end, that there would be no peace until justice is achieved. So, by the time I graduated, I had already joined millions of other Chileans who, like me, dreamed of and strove for a socialist country. De pie luchar, el pueblo va a triunfar, será mejor la vida que vendrá, a conquistar nuestra felicidad, y en un clamor mil voces se alzarán. On September 4th, 1970, Salvador Allende became President of Chile. For the first time in world history, a self-declared Marxist and socialist had been elected democratically as head of state. The program of the Unidad Popular, the Popular Unity, the coalition that he led, proposed a peaceful road to socialism. Allende's election turned every corner of Chile into a breeding ground for social change. The US owned copper mines were nationalized. An agrarian reform took land from the wealthy landowners and divided it and gave it to the landless peasants. Factory workers took control of key industries. Shantytown dwellers, like the ones that I had worked with, were able to build their own houses with the support of the government. Education and health became accessible. Food became accessible. A literacy campaign was initiated everywhere. It was expanded. And hundreds of thousands of adults who had never had the chance learned how to read and write. Those who had never owned a thing were taking a stab at controlling their own destiny. But those who had owned everything, always, and held the monopoly on power, they began to boycott and sabotage the initiatives. The US ordered an embargo. The CIA provided expertise and millions of dollars to Allende's opposition. Food distributors hoarded staples and created shortages, and therefore a black market. You name it. Everything that they could do to create chaos and to destabilize the country, they did. But paradoxically, support for Allende grew. And that's when they realized that this peaceful road to socialism could not be done away with peacefully. So they staged a violent coup and took power through violent means. On September 11, 1973, the Chilean military, with the full support of the United States, staged a coup that resulted in the murder of the president himself, the murder, the imprisonment, the torture of tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of Chileans, a complete reversal to Allende's reforms, and a 17-year dictatorship. These historical events changed my life forever. I left Chile with my young family and came to Canada in 1974. Qué lejos que está mi tierra, y sin embargo que cerca, pues existe un territorio donde la sangre se mezcla. We were the Chilean exiles, and there were hundreds of thousands of us around the world. We were a wounded community. We were mourning not only the murder, the disappearance of our compañeros and compañeras, but also the loss of a country and the loss of our dream. But as broken as we were, we put our energies together and dedicated ourselves to convincing the world that it was imperative to support the resistance movement in Chile. We founded committees together with many Canadians. We started radio programs. We put out newsletters, everything. We worked together with unions, with students. And then there were the peñas. These were events like coffee houses that we organized every month, right here at the Russian Hall in Strathcona. We would cook heaps and heaps of Chilean empanadas. I had never made an empanada in my life while I lived in Chile. You know, I went to the bakery at the corner and got them. Here I had to learn how to make them. And not just 6 or 8, you know, hundreds. So we would make all of these empanadas and welcome everybody to the Russian Hall and sing and dance and talk, and the kids would run around and then fall asleep under the tables. And overall, we had a great time, but most importantly, we would bring everybody together in support of the Chilean resistance. Vamos, Chile, carajo, vamos, Chile, carajo, Chile no se rinde, carajo, Chile no se rinde, carajo, se siente, se siente, se siente, se siente, Allende está presente, Allende está presente. My support for the resistance, my involvement with the resistance movement in Chile became a lot more direct when I was asked to provide logistical support for members that were going in and out of Chile at the time. That took me down to Bolivia and Argentina. How many minutes? I'm up? Okay. Oh, do you want to hear some more? basically, this underground work was very difficult, but very rewarding. Unfortunately, we were not able to build that socialist country that we had hoped for. And finally, a very lukewarm kind of democracy was installed in Chile in 1989. So we're going to finish with a song of hope, a song by Violeta Parra, Chilean composer and musician, and maybe you will want to join us. Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado la risa y me ha dado el llanto. Así yo distingo dicha de quebranto, los dos materiales que forman mi canto y el canto de todos que es el mismo canto y el canto de ustedes que es mi propio canto. Gracias a la vida, gracias a la vida. Join us, come on. Gracias a la vida. See, you can say it. Gracias a la vida. Thank you.